The following is paid programming.
It's time to talk taxes.
New friends, new opportunities, new partners. EG Tax.
It's Ask the Tax Lady with Esther Gulius and EG Tax on News Radio 930 WBEN. To reach Esther now, call 803-0930. Toll free at 1-800-616-9236. And cell calls are free at star 930. And now, live from the WBEN studios, it's Esther Gulius.
Hey guys, it's the Tax Lady, and this is our hour to talk about taxes, and we got a lot of stuff to talk about. You know that as this whole tax thing unrolls here with Congress, we're going to make sure that you know, probably better than anybody else in the United States, probably better than the senators and legislators, exactly what's going on, and that's part of what we do from EG Tax. Of course, we have a lot of things to talk about. We're talking about some of the things that are that the IRS just came out with this week. Of course, we announced last week that Social Security is going to go up about $25 a person. Yay, if you're on Social Security instead of it going down. We also are going to talk about all the health things that all the health insurance that's out there, and primarily because open enrollment is here right now. So if you don't have health insurance, or if you're a senior and you're wondering what the heck to do, is there a better plan for less money? We also have Tim Eliason in studio. He's our director of health services, our assistant district manager, but he also is our director of EG Health Connect. So we have that too. So right now, I got Tiffany Fabian and Christopher Fabian here. How you guys doing?
I'm doing really good. It's beautiful outside.
It's beautiful. I want to tell you, if it snows now, we're in big trouble. All the leaves are on the tree.
Yeah.
We were having our meeting yesterday, and I said, you guys better get the heat on in the offices. No, it's 70 degrees. Yeah, well, in Buffalo, 70 one day could be 30 the next day, right?
Right.
And Christopher, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Wait. Hello, Esther.
Hello, Christopher. All right, so let's talk about some of the things that are on our plate here before we get to Tim. One good thing, let's give him the good news. The good news is identity theft is done, right?
That's right, 35% you told me, I think.
Yeah, so I mean,
at
that's
the IRS.
A really good thing. So identity theft was increasing at double digits on your tax return. The IRS just announced the other day that it was, I think, a 38% decrease in identity theft, and that's a really good thing. And they're going to do something else this year to help ensure your identity when you file your tax return, and that's on your W-2, and I think probably on your 1099-Rs as well. So there's going to be an additional code that they have, so if somebody is cheating, they won't have that code, see, and the return will reject. So that's another thing that they're doing. They're doing all these little tweaks to make sure that when they get this return, they know it's the legit return.
Right. Well, does that mean we won't have to mail any more W-2s for New York because they say that's for identity theft?
Okay. Then, right after they announced that identity theft was down, they also announced that, of course, under Obamacare, people were supposed to report on their tax return if they had health insurance and fill out the forms indicating that if they had a subsidy, how much subsidy they got, and we matched it up against their income. If they had too much of a subsidy, they had to pay some of it back. If they didn't have a big enough subsidy, they got a health insurance credit. But a lot of people just blew right by it, never said anything about their health insurance. So what did they announce this week?
They announced that they won't even process your return or e-file a return if you don't indicate that you have health coverage or a exception to why you don't have health coverage.
That's right. For you and everyone you claim on your tax return.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
So if you just said, oh, well, I know my wife and I have it, but we have 2 kids and we're not putting that, well, then the return's going to reject. So then you say to yourself, I know what I'll do. I'm going to send it in as a paper return. They won't process it. They'll just put it on a pile, and they won't process it until you deal with the health insurance questions. And if you have to pay a penalty then they're going to, before they process a return, they want to know what that penalty is supposed to be. So if you don't have health insurance, you're really going to like our next guest, because he's going to straighten it all out. But so you either identify everybody that has health insurance on your tax return, or you qualify for an exception to not have health insurance, or you pay the penalty. And the penalty is how much?
$695, or 2.5% of your adjusted gross income, whichever is greater.
So if you have $100,000, your penalty is going to be $2,500.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Okay, that was Tim Eliason.
Hello, Esther.
Hello. Oh, you're not Christopher. You're Tim.
See, I thought I'd trick you
Tim.
there.
And the other thing is, let's talk about the big forum that the financial guys are putting on November the 4th, Tiff.
Yep, that's right. They're doing a financial forum this year, and it's right down the road in Amherst, and it's a great opportunity to hear from healthcare navigators. We'll be there. The financial guys, Mike Hayfleck, talking about college, talking about your investments, talking about ways that you can look at what you do, budgeting, the stock market, and it'll be a great opportunity. It's from early in the morning, 9 until about 2 or 3. And if you're interested, call 633-1515, and they'll get you set up. And then also, the financial guys are using some of our offices to help you set up Medicare. So if you're 65 or older and you need to revisit your Medicare at no charge, they'll help you navigate that Medicare site and get you hooked up with the best plan that is right for you.
Right, because it's so confusing. You know, you think, well, what do I do? Just pull a rabbit out of the hat? I mean, how do you know what to do? And that's what's so great. And you know, if you're working with a navigator, if you're on Medicare, and you know how wonderful these medical insurance specialists are to help you pick the right plan. I mean, they almost become like a family member, right? And
Yep.
so it's so important. I know we've had Tom holding for a while. Is Tom still holding?
Yep.
Hey, Tom, you've been holding and holding. How can we help you, sir?
Yes, I inherited a four-family apartment house
When did you inherit it?
late in 2016,
Okay.
and I had inherited from my uncle who lived in one of the units.
Okay.
And during 2017, well, first of all, it's my intention to sell this place.
Okay.
But it was Esther was a real mess, and I incurred expenses for
To fix it up.
everything imaginable. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you know how much you put into it?
Oh, let's say so far $1,000.
Oh, that's not much. And how much was the house worth at the time that you inherited it, if you were selling it on the open market?
$5,000.
Oh, so this is a modest four-family, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think you're going to sell it for time?
I'd like to get 75, but
7,500?
1,000.
So it was worth $65,000.
1,000, yeah.
All right, so it's worth
It-
$50,000 when you got it,
Correct.
and you put $1,000 into it.
Yes.
All right, so that's $51,000, and you're going to sell it for. You're hoping to sell it for $75,000. And your question is,
All these expenses that I've incurred during 2017, how do I handle those on my...
well, they all get added to the basis of the house. So if you inherited it, it's going to be the fair market value at the time of your uncle's death, which you said was $50,000. I think you should get a realtor to make sure that they concur with you. I would order an appraisal.
Okay.
And plus all the repairs that you put into it, plus the expense to sell it, like if you have an attorney or a realtor, and that all gets added together. So let's say your expenses come to $60 and you sell it for $75, then you're going to have a $15,000 long-term capital gain. And depending upon your other income, you might pay as little as 0% to sell it if you're in the 15% bracket or less. And on the state of New York, you'll probably pay 7 or 8%. So that's how it would work. But I think the best thing to do is to give us a call, wouldn't you think, Chris?
Definitely call us during the week. You can make an appointment to come in. We can sit down with you. We can do it over the phone. If you're not our client and you come in, bring in a copy of your return, and we'll run the numbers and tell you exactly how much you need to put aside.
But even if these expenses are for grass cutting and this,
Oh, no. This would all be capital improvements. You're getting rental income right now, aren't you?
talking about the grass cutting and the snow removal.
Okay, but Tom, you're getting rental income, are you not?
No, I didn't tell you that part. There was nobody in the rental unit.
And you're not renting it anymore?
No, it wasn't rented when I inherited it, and it's still not rented.
Okay, and you're not trying to rent it?
Just trying to get it in shape to sell it.
Okay, so the operating expenses are not going to be deductible, but all the capital improvements are.
Like if you have to put in new windows, new rugs, new floor, new bathroom, new sink, new appliances, anything like that would add to the value of the house.
Or if you did major landscaping, that would also, but just the upkeep, the operating expenses won't be deductible. Okay?
I'm just talking about the grass cutting.
Yeah, that's not
that's
deductible.
Not deductible.
Really?
If you had it rented, then it would be. But since you're not renting it, those expenses are not
It's
deductible.
only large things that you do, capital
improvements
improvements.
are go to the basis, but operating, if it's just for investment, is not going to be deductible.
And what about the real estate taxes and
the taxes are going to be an itemized deduction unless they change the tax law. Okay, I think the best thing to do, Tom, is give us a jingle at the office, 632-7886, and we can go in detail over everything with you, okay?
I think we lost him.
Okay, all right. I'm Esther Gullius, the tax lady from EG Tax, 8030930, 8030930, star 930 on your cell phone. We'll be back with your calls and Tim Eliason, who will teach you everything about medical stuff, medical insurance that you never wanted to know and stuff you wanted to know. Tax lady from EG Tax, and you know we love you and we want to help you through all the quagmires of finances, especially with your taxes, and we're kind of sitting on the precipice of a gigantic thing that is going to happen with our taxes, and we're going to keep you abreast.
And
just let me, I know, Chris, and suffice it to say, is it a big tax, a big tax break for middle income people?
Not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Upper income?
Yes.
Yep-a-ree, Bobby. Yep. But not for middle income people.
And
I had a couple the other day that came in, and I know we got to talk about health insurance, but they came in and they said, a lovely couple, they said, how much are we going to save with the new change in the tax law? So they had gambling losses, right?
Yep.
Which is going to be no longer deductible, right, if this thing goes through. And their property taxes aren't deductible, and neither is their New York State withholding. So when I got done, I said, you'll owe $11,875 more. And they almost fell off the chair. They said, what?
Yeah, tax cut.
I said, because it's not going to be deductible. These things aren't going to be deductible. When they say that these are tax breaks for the rich, they are lying. When you really make money, you start to lose your itemized deductions. So this is for the middle income person. So anyway.
Yep.
All right.
But wait.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to say two things.
Yes.
First of all, we do have, speaking of, I was telling my class about how gambling and all that's not deductible and their mouths hit the ground, but we do have one more class that's starting on next Saturday in classrooms.
Our tax school.
Our tax school, yep. So if there's anybody still out there hemming and hawing, you got one more week to decide because the last class starts on Saturday.
You will be the highlight of a party. They can just kind of put you in a corner and you can say, oh, no, this is what, oh, how about this? You have no idea about that. As a matter of fact, one of my students came in the other day and he said, I have to tell you, Esther, I've always done my own return. I have a degree in finance. I'm in the tax course, and the first thing I find out is I've been claiming my New York State refund in error all these years. He says, I bet you I cost myself $2,000 in taxes. And I said, well.
He's coming to one of our classes?
Yeah. He said, I he said, nobody should do their own taxes. I said, well, what can I tell you?
Yep. And then
Live and learn.
Yep.
But that's what's so great about the school. What else, Chris? Did you
Nothing.
say? Nothing?
I guess not.
Okay. All right. And then without further ado, we have Tim Eliason, who is our health care insurance guru. And we're kind of naming this subdirectory as EG Health Connect. And so, Tim, open enrollment is starting right now, right?
That's correct.
And what does that mean?
Well, that means that you're in that time of the year. It's just kind of like when you have an employer that says, hey, it's time to take a look at what our options are for the upcoming year. So open enrollment right now is saying that you had a health insurance plan. This is when you can look at the menu. Do I want something else? And what you're going to have for the next year going forward. So right now we're in the open enrollment for Medicare. That started October 15th and goes through December 7th. And the regular marketplace for those under 65 will start November 1st and go through January 31st in New York. The national law does not do that. They start December 1st and go through January 15th.
But so this is New York.
This is New York. They have an expanded period, and that doesn't include those people that might qualify for Medicaid, essential plans, have that life-changing event. They're open to enroll year-round, just as somebody that's turning 65.
All right, so let's talk about, so basically right now, most people are going to either register for the supplemental Medicare, medical insurance that kind of dovetails with Medicare, right?
Exactly. That's fitting in with their Part A and
Bs.
Bs.
December the 7th.
That's correct.
Right? And so you don't just throw a dart at the dartboard. You actually say, what's your health situation in your home, right? What kind of prescriptions do you go to the physical therapist all the time? Those are all the things you ask, right?
Yep. I sit down with somebody and I do what I tell them. I said, you need to come back with your medical inventory. I need to know where you're at right now, what prescriptions you're on, what specialists you see. And also, has anybody that's your healthcare provider said to you, I'm worried about that knee. I'm thinking we might have to do a knee replacement or we might have to have this. Because open enrollment is that time to kind of plan your upcoming year and what you're going to have for medical cost and how you're going to best spend your medical dollars.
And so, and not all insurance plans are created equal, right? I mean, there's some that pay more of this and have a lower deductible and less of that. I mean, it's like looking at a pot of stew and you have to segregate what best meets your needs.
Yeah, kind of like the old let's make a deal and you got 3 doors to pick and sometime you pick the door that looks the prettiest and you get behind it and they got the goat grazing.
What do you charge to do this?
We don't charge a thing, either over 65 or under 65. We don't charge a single thing, other than just enjoying their company and getting a chance to know them and help them out so they spend their medical dollars the correct way.
That's right. And I'll tell you, to do it without somebody to help you through all of the ins and outs, I will tell you, it's a sad thing because couldn't you substantially overpay?
Oh yes, and that's where
typically some people have zero pay. They can get the supplemental insurance at no charge, right?
Exactly, but then when they turn around to look at copays, is it really saving them money?
Well, but if you have no, I'll give you an example. I don't have any prescriptions. I don't go to the doctor. So, I mean, a supplemental for me, I would love it at zero because I'm, thank God, a healthy person and I don't really have any prescriptions.
Yep.
But then there are some people that have 20.
Yeah, and that's where the different plans that they fit in together. Because sometimes people look on their surface, oh, great, I don't have to do a copay when I go to my doctor, so I'm paying a higher premium. Well, just like you talked about, why are they doing that? Because then they're saying that they're going to spend more money for the privilege of paying nothing to go see their doctor. So they've kind of thrown money out the door paying that high premium as opposed to saying, I'll pay, a little less premium. And then if I do use my doctor, I'll incur that out-of-pocket cost. And that typically will net so that they have less expenses.
And then I also want to add that on your tax return, you have to have health insurance, or else you won't even get to send your return unless you indicate that there's a reason.
If you got a refund, they're just going to keep it until you got to report all this stuff.
And with that raise in the standard deduction, when you start looking at things for out-of-pocket medical expenses, you got to be smart with your dollars.
Okay, and so if people need to get a hold of you, Tim, they can call right through the office, right?
That's correct. The 632-7886 right at the corporate office.
And of course, we have Karen there. That is a lovely lady, and she's like your number one backup person to help people to sign up for the right kind of health insurance.
That's right. The ace in the bullpen. She's always there, ready to fill in.
Okay. I'm Esther Gullius, the tax lady, 8030930, 8030930, star 930 on a cell phone. And if you have any questions about your health insurance, this is the guy to talk to. And I know in line one, we've had Mark waiting and waiting and waiting. Hey, Mark, how can we help you?
Hey, guys, happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday to you, too.
On the health insurance thing real fast, I shopped around, and frankly, Medicare just drove me berserk. I figure out anything, so I went to one of the Medicare providers in the area and sat down with them and talked through, and they helped me a lot, and I wound up buying a policy from them. So you guys providing an invaluable service there, and I would strongly encourage anybody that's confused by Medicare to call you. But my question is Social Security disability taxable?
Not if, all right, all Social Security, no matter how you receive it, whether it's disability or regular retirement, your Social Security retirement, it could potentially be taxable if, when you add half of your Social Security to your other forms of taxable income, it exceeds, when that half is added, exceeds $25,000 if you're single, 32 if you're filing a joint return, then the excess is half taxable up to 85%. So is it taxable? Not necessarily, but if you have other forms of taxable income, maybe. So in your situation, do you have other forms of taxable income?
No, sadly, I was without income for about 3.5 years and went through my savings and my 401k early dispersal.
So this is it. So you don't have to worry. There is no tax liability.
Okay, great. Now,
all right.
Part two of this.
Part two. Can you hold on through the break?
We're going to take a break for the news, and we'll be right back. Can you hang on?
He's on hold.
All right. All right. I'm Esther Gullius, the tax lady. We're going to take a short break for the news, and we'll be back on the other side. Lady from EG Tax, 8030930, 8030930, star 930 on a cell phone. If you are somebody looking for health insurance, and let's face it, you got to have it. You can't even send your tax return in this year. The IRS won't accept it, either by paper or electronically, without providing all of the information regarding who has health insurance that you're claiming as a dependent or exemption on your tax return. And if you just blow by it, in the past they didn't do anything, but this year they won't even acknowledge the return or process it without that information. So we have Tim Eliason, who is our healthcare navigator, director of Health Connect, EG Health Connect, and he is the person you can talk to whether you have Medicare, whether you have Medicaid, whether you're in the New York State marketplace, with any kind of health insurance. Maybe you're paying a large amount of your paycheck every week to health insurance through your employer. That doesn't have to be the case, does it, Tim?
No.
They can look at the option in New York State.
Once they get past that 8.5% threshold, and they have that, and the other thing.
So explain what that means. What is an 8.5%? I mean, put it into context so people can understand what that means.
So basically what it's saying is that the government, and through the healthcare law, is they want to make sure that based on your income level, that you're not spending greater than any certain percentage of your income to acquire a health insurance plan. So if your employer's paying you, and they're paying a salary, and they're charging and taking insurance out of your paycheck, and that is above 8.5% of your gross income, you now have the option of going to the marketplace to shop and see if there's less expensive insurance for you and your family that
okay, so I just did the math here.
Okay.
So let's say that you're a family of two making $50,000.
Okay.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And you're paying $5,000 a year for health insurance.
Mm-hmm.
8.5% would be $4,250.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So this couple could say to the employer, thank you, but no thanks, and they could go to the marketplace. And what could they qualify in the marketplace for?
Well, again, they could qualify for different things on different levels. You know, when you're talking about employer plans, sometimes the menu has A, steak, and B, chicken.
Right.
Okay? So do you want the filet mignon or do you want the chicken? You know, those are the two choices. It may neither one really fits their healthcare dollars. Once they get into that marketplace and we start talking about maybe multiple vendors and insurance companies, and then we get into multiple levels to see what their co-pays and deductibles would be, then they have where they are spending their medical dollars more wisely, and then they can save on their money. So it's just not where they're kind of, you know, putting the square peg in the round hole for what they have offered from their employer.
And
So,
then,
like, for
E.g.,
instance,
don't
if-
forget Mark is there holding over from the break. Sorry.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
But this couple, let's say that they're in perfect health.
Mm-hmm.
And so they might say, well, I want the bronze plan with the high deductible because it's darn cheap. Or would they qualify for the essential plan at $50,000?
No,
No,
that
so
would
they
be
don't
the
qualify.
threshold. If they were a family of four, then we would maybe have some options to kind of talk to them about those dollars they may spent and putting that into some retirement
And
or
now
up in
that
their
Trump
401k.
signed this thing last week where the president, the executive order, we may be looking at people being able to get catastrophic plans, right?
Exactly. You know, they're starting to talk about options where we can go across state lines. And the other thing is there are states that really taking it on their own to form, and the doctors are doing it, creating their own co-ops. So for basic coverage, you can just pay like a membership fee to belong to a medical group. They would do your regular, you know, checkups, specialists, screening, things like that. And then along with that, they would require you to carry a catastrophic plan. So if you had that appendicitis or something major, then that insurance would kick in to pay that portion of it. Those coupled together keep your, your out of pocket for your health care very low.
See, and the thing is, I think people's eyes glaze over and they go, oh, this just sounds so confusing. And I think it is. I think it is
I
confusing
think it is, too.
because people don't know where to go, where to turn. You know, here you are. I talk to people all the time saying, this is making me, I mean, we're really having to cut back on our food because we have to pay the health insurance. And there are options,
Yeah.
and you really need to explore the options. I think we got to go to Mark, who's been waiting and waiting. Hey, Mark, how you doing?
No.
The second part of the question.
No problem at all. You guys are interesting. The second part of the question, quick recap. I've been without income for 3.5 years, almost 4, and subsequently haven't filed a tax return. Now that I'm receiving Social Security disability, should I file, and are the normally claimable deductions such as insurance copays, doctor visit copays, stuff like that, are they still claimable?
Okay, so here's the thing. If you have no taxable income, did you get a lump sum settlement from Social Security?
Yeah, I did.
How much did you get?
64,000, I think.
All right, so half of 64 is 32. Are you single?
Yep.
Okay, so in your situation, half of Social Security would be 32. That is over 25. So that means that about 7,500 is potentially divided by 2. So 3,250 is potentially taxable, but you have no other source of income, correct?
Right.
So you're not going to pay any taxes on it. So you don't have to file the return. You don't have to do a lump sum election, nothing like that. And so even though you got the lump sum, you don't have to file. And so since you're going to have a zero liability, there's going to be nothing to pay. And so therefore, none of those expenses would be deductible.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
Mark,
Chris.
Mark,
Yeah,
how old are you?
62.
62. How's your health insurance being paid for right now? Who?
Out of pocket.
Okay.
Right, yeah, that's true. Now, so Tim, address that with him.
For his out-of-pocket medical?
He could get Medicaid. His
That's
only
correct.
Social Security disability.
Yep, that's correct. Or
And are
essential
you
plan.
on Medicaid, Mark?
I do have Medicaid as
Okay.
well as Medicare.
Okay. All right, good enough. Just want to make sure you weren't overpaying.
Right. I picked up the additional Medicare parts through, can I say?
Sure.
Independent Health.
Good. Good.
Just want to make sure you're covered,
Yeah,
and
we
you're
wanted to
all.
make sure you were covered and you weren't overpaying.
Yep.
Well, thanks for your call, Mark.
Thank you. Have a great
All
weekend.
right, God
You
bless.
too.
I'm Esther Gillius, the tax lady from EG Tax, 8030930, 8030930, star 930 on a cell phone. And if you're somebody that's out there and you're looking at health insurance and you go, oh, I can't afford it. And I don't understand when President Trump signed this executive order getting rid of subsidies. Does that affect me? How do Tim speak?
And then also, I got to chime in that seniors right now have to do their open enrollment for Medicare, and so we also can help with that too.
That's
So-
exactly right. And the financial guys will be in our office helping people with their Medicare applications
yep.
as well, right?
Yep. As far as
All right,
the subsidies,
So, all right, so let's talk about that. So if you are turning 65 this year, that's the first thing you got to figure out is your Medicare, right?
It's exactly because, if you exclude that Part B, there's that penalty if you try to pick it up later. So you want to make sure that you understand all your options as they're presented. What fits best to you, what works with your Part A, which is your hospitalization, and your Part B for your doctors. Everybody always hears, hey, you need Part D. Well, that's the part that covers prescriptions. And, for a lot of people over 65, they may be on what's basically a maintenance prescription. But when we sit down with them, we pull out what's called a formulary. It's like that big, thick book that the pharmacist would have. Tiffany's laughing from a medical background. But they pull out the formulary and say, okay, what are you taking? And we look it up and, what tier, what copay or what price is that prescription, and we make sure we match plans up, because for a lot of people that is their biggest worry on a regular month-to-month basis. How am I going to pay for my prescriptions? They look at some of them, you get that little thing that's stapled to your little envelope at the pharmacy, and it shows what you'd actually pay if you didn't have insurance. And for some people, that's sticker shock. That they see that, what do you mean this prescription's $450? There's only like 5 pills in the little bottle.
I mean,
So-
and the thing is, when you're on a fixed income, you're on a fixed income.
Exactly.
It's like you can't go out and get a job, and you got what you got while you were, and that's why everybody needs to save money for their retirement. But, you're between a rock and a hard place, and that's why it is so important that you talk to a specialist in the healthcare industry for your health insurance who's going to put you in the least expensive plan that gets you the biggest bang for the buck.
Yep.
Is
And
that
you
a
were
better
talking
way to
earlier
put it?
about working with people at actually one of my clients that I've been working with, and they're starting to reach that retirement age. But we did some things with their employer like you were talking about. They actually called me. They were out with their friends at dinner, and their friends didn't believe what they were saying. So
Yep.
they called me, and I said, no, they're correct. They heard what I said. That is the right answer. And, so
Ding, 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 ding.
Hopefully, they had a dinner bet on that.
I don't know. I don't know what the side wager was,
Hey,
but
let's talk about what the executive order that Trump did. Just what does it do to people in New York State? Now, New York State really got into this hook, line, and sinker, so they're almost like an anomaly, aren't they?
Well, exactly, and that's where I for lack of a better term, and I hate to copycat, but that's where sometimes there is a little bit of fake news, because there were 2 executive orders signed. The first one that he signed is this: stop the subsidies, and everybody's up in arms and says, wait a second, that's going to hurt all of our low-income people in our state. They're not going to get help paying for anything. Well, that's not really true in New York, because other states did not expand their Medicaid or expand their assistance programs to a certain level. We did in New York. You can be up to a much higher level than the national for Medicaid, and then also we expanded to include this essential plan. There's only a couple states, Minnesota, New York, $20 a month insurance, no deductible. So that pushes us up. So the range of the impact for this executive order is very small.
In New York.
Yep, and it doesn't
but not
affect
in other states.
Yep,
but in New York, and really, New York is running at a deficit budget. So I know that they're very committed to all kinds of social programs. But right now, if you live in New York State and you're paying high taxes, that's part of what it goes to.
Exactly, and that's where a lot of people, when we sit with self-employed people with this essential plan. Sometimes, small businesses. I met with a couple people last week. They're thinking about, they have a good employee. They'd like to take care of them. We're kind of talking about, hey, what can they present to them? because the cost of health care is so high, and what's coming down the pipeline in 18. To curb that, the other executive order is actually just an expansion of a law from the 70s, and it would allow groups to go across state lines to shop insurance. So, example, all the cupcake makers in New York, Pennsylvania, and Ohio say, hey, we all make cupcakes, we all do the same thing. Let's together, almost like an old union or co-op, and let's go shop our insurance. Just like employers can do if they have offices in multiple states, they can shop that insurance to the best price in the different states. Right now, those cupcake makers, if they live in Erie County, that's the only place they can shop for their insurance is Erie County.
So here's the thing, though. If you're a cupcake maker. I mean, what do you Google? Cupcake maker insurance? I mean,
I don't know.
It's difficult. You can't walk up and down the street with a sign. Are you a cupcake maker so I can join your group?
Put it on Facebook.
There needs to be some kind of a website with groups, and I hope somebody does it. I mean, we should do it.
Yeah.
We should start. We should start a website where people can log in to see what group they can join so that they can get their health insurance.
And I bounced it off a little self-employed gentleman that I work with. He's a watch repairer, and he is a member of a watch repairers association. And he has said that, there were some things from his friends that are already talking that say, is this something we could benefit from?
But there's two problems. There's number one, connecting. The second one, getting somebody competent enough to do the negotiation.
And he was talking to me about that, says, hey, can you look at the options? And I said, sure. I not only deal with stuff on the New York marketplace because of where our offices are and doing tax returns in all 50 states. I have people that, are contacting me. I do an online class. I had somebody asking from Missouri that was asking about, do you know anything about the health insurance in Missouri? So other than I was lucky enough to find my wife in that state, I probably can help them with insurance also. So.
Wow. Okay, I'm Esther Gullius, the tax lady from EG Tax. We're talking in studio with Christopher Fabian, Tiffany Fabian, and our special healthcare navigator and director of our health services and assistant district manager. You got a really long title.
We always wear a lot of hats.
And we're going to take a short break and we'll be back with your questions, 8030930, 8030930, star 930 on the cell phone on the other side.
Oh.
All right.
Hey, I'm Esther Gullius, the tax lady from EG
I feel like
Tax.
it's time for a hayride.
Well, it is time for a
Or something.
It is.
At
It's
least
almost.
when it's nice. 8030930, 8030930, star 930 on the cell phone. We have Tim Eliason in studio with Tiffany Fabian and Christopher Fabian, and we're talking about taxes, but we're also talking about health insurance. And, they're not going to let you file a tax return this year without either paying the penalty, using an exception to penalty, or listing everyone that's being claimed on your tax returns health insurance, that they have the health insurance. So I was thinking about this. So if that's the case, and let's say your 19-year-old kid who's on a full scholarship for college would normally be your dependent, if they change the tax law so that you get nothing for the personal exemption, you would be a fool if that kid has no health insurance to put them on your tax return.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you get nothing for them and you're going to get penalized.
Right. And that's where people have to actually look, even when they're trying to claim their brother or their sister who could be 45 and they, unemployed and don't have health insurance. Well, is it worth it to claim them to get the $600 if you're going to get hit with a penalty for $600?
That's exactly right.
And then on the flip side, if that person that doesn't have health insurance is on their thing, on their tax return, then they have to count everybody else that's on the tax return's income, so they may not get the help that they need in the position that they're in financially.
That's exactly right. So, I mean, it's not, it's very complicated, very complicated. The other thing is we were talking the other day, yesterday, Tim, we were talking about how if there is going to be no itemized deductions anymore, if this idiotic thing that they're proposing goes through so that people can't deduct their health insurance. We were talking about the HSA. Mm-hmm. So explain how that would work.
Well, HSA, or health savings account, to offset some of these limitations that are happening within the raise and the standard deduction, is that they are floating the idea of expanding HSAs. which on your tax return are adjustment to income, your contributions to lower your taxable income. Well, when we expand that too, right now the rules dictate that if somebody that is unemployed or somebody that is of Medicare age could use their HSA to help pay for their premiums. Right. Everybody else can't. Well, if they expand the rules and expand the amount of contributions, then really they've created a different spot to deduct your medical expenses. You could then pay your premiums.
And that's, believe me, once, like for instance, I don't know how they'll even know who qualifies for a child tax credit if they're not claiming them as a dependent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, there's so many things. I love to listen to these politicians talk, and when they don't know how tax law works.
Mm-hmm.
Chris,
Exactly.
you were saying the other day, how many pages of tax law is there?
79, almost 80,000.
Yeah, and that's just the federal.
And
Now
how many
let's go back
forms?
to the
800
phones,
forms.
And we're going to go to David. Hey, Dave, how can we help you?
Yes, I'm retired military and I have TRICARE insurance.
Sure.
I'm over 65 and I also have Medicare A and C.
Mm-hmm.
Does it matter which Medicare I have and which is my primary insurance?
Well, you have to make sure that they work together. Your Medicare would be the primary with the TRICARE secondary on that. Are you, as far as, are you on a military pension?
Yes.
Yes. So, that would be where those would work together. And again, you have to make sure that I think somebody earlier used the term, they dovetail together, because you don't want what would be called reinsurance, where you got insurance that's covering the same thing over and over. Because if your primary covers one thing and pays for it a certain way, you want to make sure that your secondary dovetails together. And we can sit down and look and make sure that is the case, because why pay for something that you're already covered for?
Right. Well, they automatically just took it out of my Social Security. I don't even know what. I know I have Part A and B. That's all I know.
Well, the B they take out of your Social Security.
Yep. And that's
right?
where you want to make sure that what you cover. My wife is a veteran, so obviously, and she's not that old. She's not 65. But as we approach that's something we have to look at with her, is to make sure our plans for her for Medicare work together with her TRICARE.
Okay.
So should I call you and
give me a call at the office? We can sit down. Like I said, there's nothing worse than somebody paying for insurance twice.
That they don't need. Right.
Right.
Okay. And our phone number at the office, Dave, is 632-7886. Our website is egtax.com. And and there is no charge for this. I mean, we don't net you. We don't inject you with an EG tax serum. We just want to help. I mean, is that not true?
Yeah. Dave, what were you starting to say?
You have an office there on Sheridan Drive.
Yeah, except that that's where one of our tax schools are, but we're out on Niagara Falls Boulevard until January, so you'd have to come a little
Not
5 miles
far.
further.
Yeah, just around the corner.
Your phone number again?
632-7886.
632-7886. Thank you.
Righto.
You're welcome.
All right, thanks, Dave. Okay, so if you are someone that needs Medicare, you're turning 65 and Social Security says, okay, time to get Medicare, and you don't know where to turn to get that supplemental policy because your Part A only pays about 80%. So then that means that you'd have a big gap, which would be sitting in your lap, and that's where that supplemental insurance comes in. You can call EG Tax, and we'll be very happy to help you. The financial guys are doing interviews. If you're somebody that if you need regular insurance, or maybe you're paying a lot of insurance expenses every month through your employer, and you're pulling your hair out, there may be, if you're lower income, Tim, there may be a whole big great thing for them, right?
Yep, and the essential plan. The other thing, too, is I know that there's been a lot of things in the news because they have released the premiums for 2018. On average in New York, health insurance premiums are going up 13 to 16%. Some companies are going up 38%. So, depending on the company you're with, a lot of people have gotten their letter from their existing insurance company as we approach all these open enrollments, and they're calling me and going, is this really right? Well, the other thing you have to take into account, though, is if you're somebody under 65 and you're getting a subsidy or credit, that subsidy or credit also may increase because it's based on a certain insurance policy that is offered in your county. So believe it or not, even though the premium goes up, your credit may increase more and you might pay less for insurance in 2018, even though the base premium went up.
Provided that your income didn't go up.
Exactly.
Right?
If you compare apples to apples, yeah.
And when you're applying for these subsidies and you're doing it on your own, don't lie.
Yeah, no.
Why should they not lie?
Well, because again, goes back to that whole filing thing, which you have to prove on there. Because if you fidget on there and you come back, that's where us as tax preparers, when we're wearing that hat, we got to sit and say, guess what? All that extra money you got for your health insurance, now you got to pay it back, and it's going to come out of your refund.
And that hurts, and it's a big payment. Why don't we go back to the phones? We'll talk to Len. Hey, Len.
Hello?
How are you, sir? How can we help you?
I want to know if the 7.5% medical tax exemption is still going to be available next year also.
All right. If they pass what they say they're going to pass, no itemized deductions will be in the tax code at all, except for charity, and I believe it's going to have to exceed $24,000 if you're single. Married joint, and $12,000 if you're single, and mortgage interest. And again, it has to come up over those thresholds. So for most people, you would get no deduction at all.
Was that your question, Len? Was it about Medicare tax, or what was your question?
He was saying, was it going to be deductible?
I'm talking about the deduction where you have a 7.5%.
Oh, floor?
Oh.
Yeah, but I mean, your
That's
item, it
actually-
may not
Lester's
even
right.
be there.
Yeah.
You might not even be able to itemize.
And actually, if it's there next year, it's going up to 10% across
Right.
the board for everybody.
Yep.
Right.
If it's going to be there, it would be 10% then.
That's right.
Yep.
My medical expenses every year exceed $10,000.
Yep.
Yep.
Well, you need to talk to your representative because you're one of the people that would really get negatively impacted. Thanks for calling, Len. I'm Esther Gulius, the tax lady. If you need the very best tax help or help with your Medicare, Medicaid, marketplace insurance, anything insurance related, give EG Tax a call at 632-7886. Until next week, I'm Esther Gulius with Tiffany Fabian, Christopher Fabian, and Tim Eliason. Have a great day. God bless. Bye-bye.